How England was created. The untold story of the Kingdom of England. England is one of the most influential nations in history. Its language became global. Its empire once covered nearly a quarter of the world. Its kings and queens shaped centuries of politics and culture. But have you ever stopped to ask a simple question? How did England actually begin? Most people know about Great Britain and the United Kingdom, yet far fewer understand how England itself was created. The answer takes us back more than 1,000 years, to a time of tribal migrations, brutal wars, Viking invasions, and legendary kings. This is the story of how England was born. After the fall of Rome. Our story begins in the 5th century. For nearly 400 years, much of Britain had been part of the Roman Empire. Roman roads stretched across the countryside. Towns flourished. Trade connected Britain to the wider Roman world. But by the early 400s, Rome was collapsing. Facing threats across Europe, Roman authorities withdrew their soldiers from Britain. The departure left a power vacuum. Without Roman protection, local Britons became vulnerable to attacks from neighboring groups, particularly the Picts from the north and the Scots from Ireland. Desperate for military support, some British rulers invited Germanic warriors from across the North Sea. These newcomers would become known as the Anglo-Saxons. At first, they arrived as allies. Soon, they became conquerors. Over the following decades, waves of Angles, Saxons, and Jutes settled throughout eastern and southern Britain. Gradually, they pushed native Britons westward and established their own kingdoms. By the beginning of the 7th century, Anglo-Saxon authority dominated much of what is now England. The 7 Kingdoms. The Anglo-Saxons did not create one united nation. Instead, they established multiple competing kingdoms. Among the most powerful were Wessex, Mercia, Northumbria, East Anglia, Kent, Essex, and Sussex. Historians often refer to this period as the Heptarchy, meaning the rule of 7 kingdoms. These kingdoms constantly fought one another. Kings rose and fell. Borders shifted. Alliances formed and collapsed. For centuries, no single ruler could unite the land. England as we know it simply did not exist. But an even greater threat was approaching from the sea. The coming of the Vikings. In the year 793, a terrifying event shook the Anglo-Saxon world. Viking raiders attacked the monastery of Lindisfarne. The assault shocked Christian Europe. The Vikings looted sacred treasures and slaughtered monks without mercy. It was only the beginning. Over the next century, Viking armies launched increasingly larger invasions. Unlike earlier raiders, many came not just to steal, but to conquer. Kingdom after kingdom fell. East Anglia was conquered. Mercia was weakened. Northumbria collapsed. By the late 9th century, only one major Anglo-Saxon kingdom remained truly independent: Wessex. If Wessex fell, Anglo-Saxon England might disappear forever. Alfred the Great. At this critical moment, a remarkable leader emerged. His name was Alfred. After the death of his brother King Athelstan, Alfred inherited the throne of Wessex. His kingdom faced overwhelming odds. The Vikings seemed unstoppable. Initially, Alfred paid tribute to buy time, but eventually he realized that survival required resistance. He reorganized his military, built defensive fortifications, created a stronger navy, and prepared for war. The decisive moment came at the Battle of Edington in 878. Alfred's forces achieved a major victory over the Viking army. For the first time, Viking expansion had been decisively halted. The victory saved Wessex. More importantly, it preserved the possibility of an English future. Because without Alfred, England might never have existed. The road to unification. Alfred's achievements laid the foundation, but his successors would complete the work. His son, Edward the Elder, continued pushing back against Viking territories. At the same time, his sister, Æthelflæd, known as the Lady of the Mercians, became one of the most remarkable rulers of her age. Together, they launched campaigns across England. One by one, territories under Viking control returned to Anglo-Saxon authority. East Anglia was incorporated. Large portions of Mercia were secured. More towns accepted Anglo-Saxon rule. The dream of a united kingdom was becoming reality. When Edward died in 924, his son Æthelstan inherited an increasingly powerful realm. He was determined to finish what his father and grandfather had begun, the birth of England. Æthelstan proved to be one of the greatest rulers in English history. His biggest challenge was Northumbria. The region remained under Viking influence and controlled the important city of York. An opportunity arrived when the local Viking ruler died. Æthelstan moved quickly. He brought York under his authority and united the major Anglo-Saxon territories under one crown. Most historians consider the year 927 to be the birth of the Kingdom of England. For the first time, a single king ruled the lands that would become England. Æthelstan proudly called himself King of the English. England had finally been created, but its survival was far from guaranteed. The battle that changed everything. In 937, England faced its greatest test. A powerful alliance formed against Æthelstan, the King of Scotland, the King of Dublin, and the ruler of Strathclyde joined forces. Together, they hoped to destroy the young English kingdom. The two sides met at the Battle of Brunanburh. The exact location remains unknown. What is known is that the battle was devastating. Thousands died. The fighting was brutal. But when the dust settled, Æthelstan stood victorious. The alliance collapsed. England survived. Many historians believe Brunanburh transformed England from a political project into a true nation. It created a shared sense of identity, a belief that the English people belonged together. Final challenges. Even after Brunanburh, England's future remained uncertain. Viking rulers returned. York changed hands multiple times. Kings were murdered. Civil conflicts erupted, yet England endured. Successive rulers fought to preserve unity. Gradually, stability returned. Then came a ruler who would complete the process. Edgar the Peaceful. When Edgar became king, England finally experienced lasting peace. Rather than constant warfare, Edgar focused on governance. He introduced reforms, strengthened royal authority, maintained existing laws, and ensured that both Anglo-Saxon and Danish communities could coexist. For nearly 2 decades, England enjoyed unprecedented stability. Under Edgar's leadership, the foundations of the English state were firmly established. The kingdom was no longer an experiment. It was a nation. Conclusion. The creation of England was not a single event. It was centuries of migration, conquest, invasion, resistance, and political skill. From the arrival of the Anglo-Saxons after Rome's collapse, to Alfred's defense against the Vikings, to Æthelstan's unification of the kingdoms, and finally, Edgar's stabilization of the realm. England emerged through one of the most dramatic journeys in European history. By the year 927, a new kingdom had been born. A kingdom that would eventually become one of the most powerful nations the world has ever known. And it all began with a handful of kingdoms fighting for survival on a distant island at the edge of Europe.